Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Monday Q&As. So let's knock this out. What's a healthy fat percentage to aim for while cutting for non-competitors? Thanks. Alright, very simply put, for most men, unless you compete in something to where there's an advantage to doing so, or unless you are on exogenous hormones of some type to keep your hormones elevated year-round, I don't recommend you cut under about 10% body fat. It's counterproductive in terms of your overall health, your well-being, things like that. For the majority of people, there are genetic outliers. There are people who are the exception. But you need to keep that in mind. Just because someone's the exception doesn't mean that it's going to be a good idea for the majority. For most guys, there's the cutting under 10% just isn't a good idea. For women, I wouldn't go much under about 19-20%. Maybe 18% for a female, and that's pushing it. And remember, just because you know someone or you happen to be that person who is the exception to that rule and they do just fine, blood work looks fantastic, testosterone levels stay perfect, and they feel good and have energy at 8% body fat, doesn't mean that the majority of people will, and that's the issue here. Alright, next question. Should one use clips while squatting? Well, if you're like me and you train for speed and power and you are explosive out of the bottom of the squat, and you're not using a really stiff bar, you don't really have much choice. The plates come off. Because that bar bend and that flop at the top, the plates will slide sometimes a foot at the top of your rep. All of them will. You got 3, 4, 5 plates on there, they slide when the bar bends. So you kind of need to. I don't see why you'd be asking that question unless you're really lightweight and you're not that explosive yet. And therefore the bar's not bending as much. When you get stronger, you're going to find that you oftentimes need them if you have any amount of explosiveness and speed in your squat when it starts getting heavy. So it's a non-question. It shouldn't even be there. All right, next question. Adding in a power day while doing high-frequency training. My training style is very similar to yours. Do you think replacing one of my regular workouts with a 7 to 10 set, 60 to 70% intensity for 3 reps to work on bar speed would be advantageous? Yeah, that's not bad at all. I mean, you guys have seen me do stuff like that, and so since I've done it and do it on occasion, I think it's fair to say that I advocate it. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's a good way to get in some extra, again, training for speed, explosiveness, and a good way to get in a little extra metabolic fatigue while keeping the reps low. So it's not a bad idea at all, particularly for putting on a little bit of size, training a little speed strength, getting some volume in, or getting some explosive training in with a decent training volume for some extra hypertrophy. It's certainly not a bad idea. It's very viable. Just, again, watch recovery. Watch how you're adapting to it. All right, next question. Jason, could you consider creating an upper/lower split for beginners in the spirit of your full body routine? No, not really, because in just my experience and my understanding of various literature, my understanding of observing people in the real world, if I were to put someone on a split routine as a novice in their first year of training, I'm doing them a disservice. They're going to have slightly less potential for gains. I'm not saying you can't make really good gains on an upper-lower, but it's not as good of gains as you're going to have the potential to make on a properly written full body. So by doing that, I'd be doing a disservice to them. Now, my intermediate program, which I have, the core template is an upper-lower, but the accessory work could turn it into full body depending on what you're doing. It very easily could be full body. It's just the main core work is upper-lower, and it's viable. But I really wouldn't, for anyone who's less advanced and an intermediate lifter, I just wouldn't recommend it. I just don't see it as a good idea. There's no advantage to doing so, so I wouldn't recommend it when I know that they can get more out of a full body, up until that threshold at least. So the answer is no. All right, next question. At what age range can/does a powerlifter reach his max potential if he started lifting properly when he was 17 to 20, in case he doesn't stop training and has average genetics? You're going to reach about 95 to 99% of your potential if you start at that age and you train consistently and hard. It's going to take you about a decade, about 10 years. At about the 10-year mark for that person, it's going to be safe to say they're probably near their potential. Doesn't mean they can't get a bit more, but you're going to find the returns are going to be so massively diminished from year to year that they're going to be very, very small. You're going to have made probably, again, 95 to 99% of your strength gains as a powerlifter in that window, assuming you really took advantage of it and you really trained correctly and hard for that entire decade. I think that's perfectly reasonable. All right, next question. Is it okay to do accessory work on off days to compound lifts if I don't have the time because of shift work? Yeah, I mean, if your job schedule doesn't allow you to get in and train long enough to get all your primary work done and your assistance work on the same day, there's certainly nothing wrong with just working around your schedule and doing the best you can. If you need to take a separate sessions or days to come in and do some accessory work, by all means do it that way. However, like with any other really high frequency training, pay attention to joints, connective tissue pain, inflammation in those areas to make sure that they are properly recovering from the frequent beating of the same connective tissue and joints being hammered day after day. Just pay attention to those things and pay attention to your technique and form. Look for signs of needing to deload. All right, next question. Someone told me you're a rude cunt. Just saying. Now this person has posted on my wall several times that I noticed. Even though I'm back in Texas now, they live in a town fairly close to the town I was living at in the United Kingdom up until recently. So I think this person is misunderstanding something. I think they're trying to assume I've been this way in person, and I can honestly say that's never been true. I don't know what they're talking about. Lots and lots of you have met me. Probably 100 or more of these you subscribers have met me at one point or another. And unless I am in the middle of a competition competing or I'm having to judge at the competition and I'm therefore occupied, or anyone has stopped me on the street, stopped me at a grocery store, stopped me at an event, I always stop and I give any of you who stop me at least 5 minutes of my time. That's my personal rule. That is the rule that I follow because I understand that the subscribers are my lifeblood. This is a major part of my income, this channel. This is basically, I'm a professional YouTuber at this point. And I rely upon all of the fans and the subscribers and the viewers to continue to stay. And if I start treating you guys badly when I bump into you, people are going to know about it. They're going to hear about it. And so I actually make sure that I respect the fact that you people are my lifeblood. And anytime someone stops me, I give them no less than 5 minutes. I don't care if I'm walking home with a backpack full of groceries out in the heat, sweating and wanting to get home. I stop every single time and I give them 5 minutes of my time. Sometimes more, sometimes a lot more. But I always give 5 minutes out of just sheer respect for that. And anyone who says that I don't is a damn liar. Alright, next question and last question of the week. Your thoughts and feelings on Leonard Nimoy's passing. You know what? I think we all saw that Star Trek movie where Spock died once already. And while I'm a big fan of Leonard Nimoy and Spock, and I love the Star Trek franchise, I think we know he's like, alright bro, let me put it this way. Trick me once, shame on you. Trick me twice, shame on me. I'm not falling for this one again, Spock. You died before, you got resurrected and came back as a little child and grew up really fast, and one with Sigourney Weaver in it, and the Klingons and everything. So, alright, just give it a rest, bro. We know in a couple weeks you're going to be back, you're going to be like a teenager, and you're going to grow up again. It's all good. We've seen this before. You ain't fooling me, brother. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh, not by Cepheus.